Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This week, for an absolute change, we're looking at the EITF European Championships team sparring between Greece and Bulgaria. So it's the finals from the other ITF, from the one that myself and Richie are involved in. So it's something a little bit new, a little bit different for us. So stay with us if you'd like to see our take on that one.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Fight Chat Friday. So we're going to look at, maybe this is going to be another ITF versus ITF compare and contrast. So we did one of those before and people found it quite interesting. So let's get right into it. We'll have a look at the matches. So this is the final of the team sparring that came in. So there was a question obviously looking for us to tackle this. So anyone who does have anything that you want us to cover or check out, or topics or whatever, definitely get involved there in the comments. Let us know and we'll get back to you and try to cover the video for you as well.
Excellent. So yeah, we'll jump right in with match one. And I think it's kind of important that, people understand we're coming from a slightly different rule set in this, and we can talk about it a bit more later, but let's just jump in and have a look at the match. Greece in blue, Bulgaria in red throughout.
All right, so we see first off anyway is the front leg is quite similar still. I do like the fact that they have some nice spinning kicks. So that is something that is... what do you think? Would you like to see that in our ITF, Adrian?
Yeah, again, it comes down to if it's effective, it'll come in there. I think as I watch through these, there's an awful lot of use of the back kick and an awful lot of use of foot-to-foot front leg turning kick, which is, for me, quite surprising. And, in particular because it sets up the back kick so well,
Yeah, one of the things about these like spinning kicks is at least it puts people on the back foot, because nobody wants to get hit with one of those. So at least it is threatening, and you need to be quite brave to go right through those. And especially when you understand that they are coming, they have to come at some stage. So if you have a little bit of a strategy for something that has to happen in a match, that can always be effective.
Yeah, I think a very interesting thing here, though, is in terms of what looks like the clearer scores, it's those jumping punches, or even just like stand tall and punch, that seems to have been effective in terms of getting scores. And, I don't think I actually let it go there. It was a draw. That first one was a draw.
Okay.
But it's quite interesting that, for all of the attempts to throw the 360 spinning, the reverse, the whatever, very often it comes down to back up, stick the front hand in, either with the jump or just with the direct punch off the front hand. And another thing, because the scores are staying so low, there was 3 points at maximum given to any competitor in that, from what I saw on the scoreboard. And that's not me watching as an observer, that's me watching what went onto the scoreboard. The warnings were massively impactful. Like in 2 minutes, there was a very, very large number of warnings given. And I don't know how I just did that. Wow, Richie, that was quite an interesting feat. However, that has happened. We're still at it. We're still swapping around. This is new for me. I don't even know what button I pushed. So
the like button in itself. Hit the like button on that one.
Yeah, my God, what on earth was going on there? I don't even know what button I pushed. But Richie almost got dropped. But yeah, for me, the number of warnings in that match was really, really high, which I think is actually what pulled Greece back into it, because it looked like Bulgaria was getting a little bit of early traffic out of the front leg. But very gradually over the 2 minutes, with the warnings, the score's been taken away, and admittedly from both sides, but Greece got back into it. So finishing with a draw, and they looked like they were happier with that result at the end. So maybe that was an expected mismatch towards Bulgaria.
So does the scoring system here go the similar way for us in terms of each corner referee's score is totaled? Is it the same system? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we should be able to see, just as I'll move the match ahead, you can see in the four corners of the screen that blue has a narrow lead, and when we have our draws, flipping there towards red. But it's very, very close stuff at this stage, and you can see even this is very much the last part of the match, and there's like so little in it, and it's right at that very, very last second that Greece actually managed to bring it back to a draw, 1 red, 1 blue, 2 draw. So very much the same scenario that we're looking at. The only thing, and if you're not used to team sparring in either code, that you really need to know with this one and becomes relevant later on, is in the EITF and in that other ITF in general, it goes 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss, and obviously it's over the 10 points that are available. Once you score more than the other person can make up, then the match is over. Whereas we have each individual decision from every judge is counted throughout the whole match. So you can potentially win a match 4-0, 3-1, etc. And you're looking to get to either more flags than the other team can score across the 5 matches, or if you can get to 11, you'll automatically win. But all 5 matches are still fought. So that's a difference, I think, between the two codes. So let's have a look at what happened as we went into match number 2. And again, I think both matches were mismatches. So Greece seemed to have the larger competitors in these first 2 matches. Taller, at least.
Okay. Yeah, so we see that the blitz obviously is going to be a big factor in both codes. I think that just the variety of kicks is a little bit different in this ITF. I think that there's lots of step switches and spinning kicks and things like that. So that always keeps it interesting too, because it's more unpredictable.
Yeah, a little bit more drawn from WT, I think, on this side of things, and in terms of the kicks that are being sought, and a little less from wacko point sparring or the equivalent that you might see on our side of things. Okay.
Yeah, again, I think the jump punches seem to be working clear, but I don't think the decision went that way in the end. But yeah, I think that's it goes back to just the visibility of scores. I think that's a principle for both ITF groups. No matter what way you're doing sparring, you need to make your scores visible and clear for the referees, and that's obviously quite important.
Yeah, and I mean, I've only edited to the action from this one, and it's a very short one. There was an awful lot of waiting in this one, so again, I think in terms of the send-outs, I think Greece were happier to go and seek a draw or a low score on this one, much happier than Bulgaria were on that front. And Bulgaria did take the early lead, and Greece managed to pull it back to a draw again. So I'd imagine if you've a vested interest, this was an edge of the seat kind of one, as the decisions were coming back in.
All right.
So that leaves us with 2 draws, as the match stands at the moment, going into match number 3, and it's starting to get to the serious end in the running order. So we're starting
to a lot of front leg again, isn't it? And I think that sets up the spins a lot. But I think I think so far these guys seem to be just a bit more composed and have a better idea of what they're about. I think the first 2 for me look like I think that one standout for me is that these look like more kind of like actual fights, let's say, in terms of it's just like get scrappy, get in there, and let's try find some techniques from there, as opposed to having like a strategy in terms of like a system that you're working on to get clean scores. It seems to be more of let's go in there and try fight the other person, which can be effective at certain times. But you in a sports setting, you want to be effective and getting points too. And here's Blue doing a bit better there, trying to get those points. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely think in terms of what we're seeing here, we're seeing far more attempts to spin than we'd see in our code. There are other ways. We would look to maybe use distance, use angles, use hands to deal with the rising front leg, or clash more. There's very little like deliberate clashing going on, I think, from either of these. And I think because of that, a lot of the attempts to spin end up with a kick to the back or a fall as the person gets clashed. And I think that makes the warnings even a little bit more important. Lovely back kick on the way out, and Greece ends up taking this. But I have to say, it looked throughout the fight that Bulgaria was the more active and really looking to take the fight there, which maybe allowed Greece to counter and be happy in that countering style. This one's for all the tamales, and we've seen some interesting strategy from both guys from the off with that kind of like not a blitz, but a very point sparring, like almost back fist or or jab, which is an unusual way to go.
Are the jumping punches worth more?
That's a very good question. Certainly they used to be. I don't know if those would count as jumping. But certainly you used to get the extra point for the jumping hand techniques, and to be quite honest, I am a little ignorant on that front. I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, guys, if you do come from this system and you're aware of the rule set. Let us know in the comments, and give a bit of context to people watching. And like, getting back kick is a big one, isn't it?
It really is, but I mean, this is why I think that that backhand and something to discuss there as well. Yeah, so I'll jump back a little bit, but like I think, given how prominent the back kick was, I think the almost shift in with the front hand really is inviting that back kick, and I don't know if that's the intention. Like, is it attempt to score, look to draw the back kick, and then bring in your own turning kick, or what? If that was part of the plan. But it seems to be a reaction to the scoreboard, and the way I saw this, I watched it through again. We can see it afterwards. We've got 4 flags to blue, and that was immediately afterwards. So it seems like there was a score overturned or a score given. I've edited out the bit where all of the judges are called up, and there's a 2 or 3 minute wait in the middle. So I can assume from that it was a contested, or it was the coach contesting the score.
I like this testing and like setting the rhythm and stuff here, and then launching with an attacking back kick. I don't know, is that the best idea? So you can use, I think they could use a more kind of, I think just have a bit more of a foundation in the basic techniques to set up the spinning techniques. Because when you go directly, it's clear, like at this high level, when you're used to it, like when you spin, it's going to be obvious to the opponent when they're both black belts. So I think that you should be using your basic shots to set up these, not just launching in with a spinning kick. I think you want to be quite lucky, or against somebody that's not at a good level to land them.
But I mean, if we look at the scoreboard there, the scoreboard is blue, is the simplest way of putting it. And if we look at the decision taken by Bulgaria here, we're looking at things you absolutely wouldn't want to see a competitor throwing if the scoreboard's against them. It's throwing the kitchen sink and hoping something sticks, really. And you'd be looking to see, because it's not the score differential wasn't high. It really is a case of like, okay, could you build in the last few seconds an opportunity for a good scoring attempt? Like, can you squeeze the person to the corner? Can you set up a foot to hand or a clash and go or something, rather than here I go, which, again, in the matches that I watched, it was far more likely that people would attempt to spin than anything that we'd be used to seeing. And this isn't trying to denigrate, what people are doing within that system. And I know, for example, something we didn't talk about so far, they can't go past 2 punches without a warning being issued and the score being retracted. So they have to link in the kicks after the 2 punches. And that does mean that there's more incentive for that single punch or that jumping double punch back to the leg. The spins, maybe the back kicks in particular, give you a good exit after 2 hands. So maybe they give you a good way to get out. But as to why the back kick is so prominent, everybody was trying to throw back kicks. Like everybody was trying to back
I think
kicks.
they were all similar as well, where I think we did a video recently on using a back kick to counter side kicks and kicks, versus using a back kick to stop an oncoming opponent. And I think that from what I've seen anyway, a lot of the back kicks were kind of like of similar vein in terms of like they were the same type of back kick. And I would just like to see just a little switch up there for the scenario, especially when it's something that happens a lot from what we've seen. And again, on the flip side of that, then if you know the back kick is a big shot, then what are the ways that you can set traps to lure that in?
That's a big deal.
And then counter that effectively.
But I mean, even on the simpler level, there's we can see the front leg, and the side kick is particularly effective, as you'd expect it to be. Again, our game isn't that different. Like, plenty of our fighters would fit into that just perfect and work away. And I think particularly the last 2 sets of fighters, if you put them into the ITF that we're involved in, I think no issue.
You wouldn't know.
They'd step in, they would compete just fine. And I think, there's some tactical decisions that are being made, some strategies that you think, okay, they'd try it, but I'm sure if it wasn't working, they'd adapt it. And I do think that area of how you carry your side kick, it can completely cut out the back kick as an option, because the person's having to leave their body open to shovel. So, you're going to have to take the back kick off the line in order to take the side kick off the line in order to be able to land the back kick. So that being the case, you have to always leave that, that open line to your body. Take that risk. You're hoping that their side kick will be at a predictable range, distance, speed, it's just a little riskier. So, I think that's just something that's quite interesting to see how that environment, that ecosystem hasn't developed there, that they're still so willing to try a spin into a front leg kick, before the kick is developed. Like, we're not seeing it that it's a high turning kick. We're not seeing that the person is looking to carry and a hop in, in a chamber position. We're seeing direct kicks off the front leg being countered with a spin. And I think that's really interesting. I'd love to know why it is that that's developed as a strategy.
Yeah, like, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, obviously it's what people do and what people are successful at almost becomes the mold.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's what we do in a way. So it's like, it's interesting how that works. And it just takes one or two people to come up with a little bit of almost like a meta game that's more effective. And then we see that in variations of all sparring and all
every
groups.
Fight game. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And that's what it's going to take here for ourselves in ITF, in our group, and in this group that we just watched. So it's just going to take one person to come up with an effective strategy to almost solve the overall game that they have.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the difference.
But looking at that, Richie, like, we had the situation up until recent years where, 4 matches, it's over. The 5th fighter and both teams didn't get to fight in that particular scenario. Obviously, we've moved away from that, and all, you will have 5 of the 6 fighters fighting in every match. How do you think that impacts strategy in particular?
Yeah, because it's an interesting one now. Because, like, do you pick your best fighter for match 5, or do you put him out in match 4? Because it's not going to be before. Well, in a way, it still plays in, right? But for our ITF, you're not matching up the positions as much as the fighters. So you're going to say, okay, Richie, I want to go against Adrian, and I fancy myself against him. So I'm going to try to link up where he fits in and try to beat him and get the most amount of return I can on the scoreboard. Whereas in this one, you're going to have to look at the setup a little bit more. It's like, do you want to get your aim to get 3 wins in the first 3 matches? Are you going to keep your best fighter to the end? So there's a bit more at play in terms of the positioning. Of course, it's effective. Yeah. It's very important for us as well. You don't want to get to match 4 and say, oh, that's it. Match 5 is now not
relevant
viable
because they've already won. Yeah.
Because they've already won. So obviously it's at play in both codes, but I think that the positioning is more important in this ITF as opposed to the matchups, because you might just have your best fighter who can beat everybody, go out there and get that win, and now you might be say, okay, maybe I've wasted that fighter against somebody who I want to take out from the other team. So it's an interesting, just an interesting little
there's
difference.
There's another one as well, which is because every win is 2 points, a close win is just as valuable, where we're often looking for a bigger mismatch. If we can put our best fighter against their weakest fighter, sometimes we'll do that, because a 4-0 win is very difficult to make up, and then that might force them to bring their order a little different and give us a more play on the matches. So in the same way as we could send out a weaker fighter against their strongest, and it's like, okay, just don't lose 4-0. If you can lose 3-1, if you can lose 2-1-1, well, that's fantastic. Whereas in that side of it, a loss is a loss. It doesn't matter if you lost by, the last warning, or if you lost, and it was 33-0 on all the scorecards. It's just a loss. So I think there are some subtle differences in there as well. I think that, that really will play into it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that we could, on our side, we could have a look at how they use the kicks and be more unpredictable. I think that could be something that we could employ, and a bit more effective on the jumping punches at times.
Yeah.
I think that if we could bring that in, and the nice little back kicks they have. And the flip side, I think the other ITF that we've seen today, they can be more effective off that front leg as like a foundation to set up other shots, instead of just throwing them out of nowhere and expecting them to stick, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully for our viewer who kind of added in or sent us that comment, this is kind of what you're hoping for. And again, for anyone else who'd like us to tackle a topic for them, please do by all means send it in to us on any of the social media, put it in the comments, and we will try and tackle that for you. So that's us for this week, and we will see you next Friday.
See you in the next one.